Good day and thank you for joining us on Beetv News Update at 3. I am Liberatsman Johanna. Now the news in details. In a significant political shift in Adamawa State, 15 lawmakers, including the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, have defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Congress, APC. This move gives the APC a clear majority in the State House of Assembly, altering the power dynamics within the legislature. The report. Moving on, in Abuja, President Bola Tinubu has charged the Acting Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, to restore peace and strengthen security nationwide. The President issued this directive during the declaration of Mr. Tunji Disu as the Acting Inspector General of Police following the retirement of Kayode Egbetonku, pending ratification by the Nigerian Police Council and confirmation by the Senate. The Council is set to meet next week. President Tinubu described Mr. Tunji Disu's appointment as coming at a critical moment, urging him to rebuild public confidence in the police capacity to perform its duties in collaboration with other security forces.
At a defining moment for our nation's security, and expect you to strengthen the discipline, enhance interagency collaboration, and restore public confidence in Nigerian police.
The President mentioning a lot of activities about me, mentioning areas I've worked, mentioning successes I've recorded as a policeman, brought emotion to me, almost brought me to tears. It shows the President took his time to monitor officers working everywhere in the country, and it shows the President was throwing a challenge at me to go out there and do what I'm known for and ensure that I bring peace, recognition, and to the country.
My advice to the newly appointed Acting Inspector General of Police is that he should continue to show commitment to the things that we have been doing together. He has been part of my administration from the beginning. He was my PSO. He was CP in Rivers in FCT. He was the AIG in charge of my SPU. When Mr. President gave the order, presidential order, to withdraw police from VIP protection, it was Tunji Disu I called upon to ensure that presidential order was given full.
The federal government of Nigeria has launched the distribution of 15,000 waterproof fiber mattresses to correctional centers nationwide, aiming to improve the welfare and living conditions of inmates. The report.
The Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, inaugurated the initiative with the presentation of mattresses at the NCS Center at Olokuta. The program is part of the government's ongoing reforms to promote humane treatment of inmates and align Nigeria's correctional services with global best practices. As part of the pilot phase, Osun State, which has over 700 inmates, received an initial batch of more than 850 waterproof fiber mattresses ahead of the nationwide rollout.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Thank you so much.
Flagging of the initiative, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, said the mattresses will be delivered to correctional centers under the Nigeria Correctional Service to address the acute shortage of basic bedding materials in many facilities. He made the announcement through his special advisor on correctional reforms, Babatunde Ogundare. The minister emphasized that custodial centers should not serve as condemnation centers. Instead, there should be institutions where lives are reformed and inmates are guided towards responsible citizenship.
Well over 700 inmates will be looked after already. Honorable Minister has donated mattresses of well over 850, so they still have excess on ground. And it's not going to be limited to Ondo State. We're only flagging it off here. If you look at the mattress, you need to test, you need to touch the texture and understand that it's a waterproof. And it's something that, will bridge the gap of unnecessary expenses.
The Controller of Corrections in the state, Mr. Charles Oyewole, commended the federal government through the Ministry of Interior for its transformative leadership, reforms, and continued support for correctional personnel.
Part of reformation program for our inmates. That is part of our mandate to provide an humane, safe custody one is able to lay on a more comfortable beddings, I think his perception about life will be a great difference.
The distribution of 50,000 waterproof fiber mattresses to correctional centers nationwide underscores the federal government's commitment to improving inmate welfare and repositioning custodial facilities as centers of rehabilitation rather than condemnation. Naomi Ewere reporting from Beetv News.
With the amendments to the Nigerian Electoral Act signed into law by the President, political parties are now awaiting the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to announce a new timetable for the 2027 elections. The report.
INEC had initially scheduled the general elections from February and March of next year, but the timeline is now expected to be moved to an earlier date. The President's signature on the 2026 Electoral Act triggers a series of events and timelines leading to the 2027 elections. Two key changes in the new act include the reduction in the time frame for election notice and campaign. The National Assembly reduced the notice period from the initial 360 days to 300 days.
Notice, which was earlier in the 2022 Act, 360 days. Now we have seen the wisdom to reduce it to 300 days.
Elections for the office of the President, the National Assembly, as well as for governors and state assemblies will now be held earlier than previously scheduled.
This will inadvertently translate to holding the presidential and National Assembly elections in January 2027.
Members of the opposition and some civil society groups organized protests demanding mandatory electronic transmission of election results. This led to a second key issue, the method of result transmission from polling units through the Independent National Electoral Commission's collation process. In response, lawmakers opted for a hybrid approach to result transmission.
Since the polling unit result comes in from EC8A, which is signed by the presiding officer, signed by the agents, and signed in the presence of security agents, copies are given to all. Then we can use that as a primary source of collation at that unit. And then, of course, we transmit it, even if there is no network at that time. Once we step out of there, maybe towards the ward center or the local government center, it will drop into the IRF. If what is eventually collated at the next center is different from what is in the IRF, Nigerians will be able to compare.
Additional changes include the reduction of the deadline for political parties to submit the names of candidates from 180 days to 120 days. The deadline for publishing the final list of contestants has also been shortened from 150 days to no later than 60 days before the election. INEC is expected to announce a revised timetable and new dates for the general elections, likely between December 2026 and January 2027. Naomi Ewere reporting from Beetv News.
A former president of the Nigerian Bar Association has commended President Bola Tinubu for reclaiming Nigerian sovereignty by signing the executive order directing the direct remittance of oil and gas revenues to the Federation account. However, Olisa Agbakoba identifies two critical gaps that must be addressed to fully unlock the transformative potential of the order. The report.
Olisa Agbakoba, a senior advocate of Nigeria, believes the executive order can significantly increase revenues for the Federation, strengthen the capacity of the three tiers of government to deliver services, and restore confidence in the transparency of Nigeria's oil and gas sector. However, Agbakoba urges the implementation committee of the executive order, headed by the Finance Minister Wale Edun, to recommend the privatization of sale of the NNPC and the exit of government from commercial participation in oil and gas exploration. He also calls for a comprehensive review of the Petroleum Industry Act to better safeguard the Federation's revenue interests.
NNPC is there creating policy, interfering with the upstream and downstream commission. But let it be very clear, let the President make a very clear policy decision that the NNPC is no more than an ordinary oil company. It should have no regulatory or statutory powers of any kind. Let there be a Minister of Petroleum who sets policy for how we harness our crude oil.
Dr. Agbakoba also suggests a phased withdrawal from all joint venture and production sharing contract arrangements with international oil companies.
Nigeria cedes ownership. We transfer ownership of our crude oil resources to the IOCs under the fake pretension that the IOCs will do it in our interest. They don't. They in fact turn around and ask us to pay the so-called cash call. So we pay 60% cash call. And that cash call, they determine it.
As the 2027 general election approaches, with expectations for more competitive politics focused on real issues, Dr. Agbakoba suggests shifting the burden of proof in election petitions to INEC rather than the petitioner, along with the implementation of other recommendations from the Justice Sui Committee, will significantly enhance the electoral process in Nigeria. Naomi Ewere, reporting from Beetv News.
In the nation's capital, operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS, have arrested the 6 suspects involved in the 2022 attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, which resulted in the deaths of over 40 worshippers and left many others injured. According to the DSS, the suspect identified as Sani Yusuf was arrested in the Ogalsa community of the northeast local government area of Edo State after spending about 4 years in hiding. The DSS is currently prosecuting 5 other individuals for allegedly carrying out acts of terrorism. A source within the DSS confirmed that Yusuf admitted to being involved in the planning and execution of the Owo Church massacre. He also confessed to other terrorist attacks by ISWAP, including the July 2022 attack on the Suleja military barracks and kidnappings in Kaduna State and its environs. The coroner's court sitting at the Yaba Magistrate Court in Lagos has adjourned to April 14, 2026 for the commencement of an inquest into the death of 21-month-old Master Nkanu Nnamdi Ezike, the son of renowned author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and Dr. Ivara Ezike. The child passed away on January 7, 2026 following medical procedures at Atlantis Hospital and Eruka's multi-specialist hospital in Lagos. Nkanu was initially admitted to Atlantis Hospital for a worsening illness and was referred to Erura's care for pre-flight diagnostic procedures before being transferred to Johns Hopkins Hospital in the U.S. Unfortunately, he died after ongoing procedures including an MRI scan, lumbar puncture, and central line insection. The parents have alleged medical negligence and professional misconduct related to the circumstances of his death. At the preliminary proceedings, Professor Kemi Finhero San represented the family, while Adebola Rahman appeared for the Attorney General of Lagos State. Prof. Cheluchi Onyemelukwe represented Atlantic Hospital, and Eric Rake was also present. And on the business news, the Managing Director of Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Jennifer Adigije, has urged the federal government to remove electricity subsidies and implement fully cost-related tariffs to restore financial stability in Nigeria's power sector. The report.
Jennifer Adigije highlighted structural and liquidity challenges in the electricity market, stressing that a financially viable system is essential to attract investment and support sustainable growth. Adigije called for decoupling subsidies from tariffs and gradually introducing cost-reflective pricing across all customer segments. She also pointed to liquidity constraints, noting that only about 30% of market invoices are settled, and cited persistent gas shortages as a major challenge, with gas procurement accounting for nearly 60% of operational costs for thermal power plants. The Minister of State for Finance, Dora Uzoka Anite, said Nigeria must sustain 10 to 12% annual GDP growth over the next decade to reach $1 trillion economic target set by Bola Tinubu. With GDP currently at about $375 billion, consistent growth is essential. She noted that structural reforms are underway to correct past distortions, including high fuel subsidies and a multiple exchange rate system that hurt investor confidence. Uzoka Anite highlighted recent improvements, including S&P Global Ratings positive outlook revision, and said the government has restructured its budget to treat investment spending separately from recurrent costs to support sustainable growth. The managing director of the Rural Electrification Agency, Abba Aliyu, said progress is being made under the distributed access through renewable energy scale-up project, with key construction milestones achieved. The $750 million World Bank initiative aims to provide electricity access to over 17.5 million people through solar mini-grids and home systems, replacing polluting generators and supporting rural businesses. Aliyu noted that All Futam Nigeria Limited has completed foundational work at multiple sites, casting mountain support bases in 4 of 10 project locations, a crucial step towards full solar infrastructure deployment. Naomi Ewere, reporting from Beetv News.
And on the entertainment world, Prime Boy, a friend of the late singer Mohbad, has publicly expressed frustration over the continued delay in the artist's burial. He and a few other people were seen holding placards to express their displeasure over the issue. The report.
In a viral video trending online, Prime Boy was seen protesting while calling on both the singer's family and the Nigerian government to do the right thing. He questioned why the situation has remained unresolved for so long. He also alleged that funds donated by supporters following Mohbad's death are being enjoyed by some family members despite the artist still not being buried. His remarks have further fueled public conversations surrounding the prolonged delay. In another development, Tiwa Savage has launched the Tiwa Savage Music Foundation, an initiative designed to discover and nurture emerging African music talents. The announcement was made on February 25th, 2026 in Lagos, where she outlined plans to provide structured, world-class music education for aspiring creatives across the continent. The foundation will support not only singers and performers, but also individuals interested in behind-the-scenes career within the music industry. Its first major project is a partnership with Berklee College of Music, offering a tuition-free program for 100 selected participants. The training will cover live performance, songwriting, music production, and music business. Applicants have until March 20th, 2026 to apply. While tuition is fully funded, selected candidates will be responsible for their travel and accommodation in Lagos. Tiwa described the initiative as deeply personal, reflecting her own journey from studying at Berklee to achieving global success. The search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today anchor Savannah Guthrie, remains ongoing after she was reported missing on February 1st. The Pima County Sheriff Department has investigated multiple leads and recently ruled out all siblings and spouses as suspects in the case. Despite this, online speculation has focused on Dominic Evans, an elementary school teacher who plays in a band with Tommaso Sioni, the husband of Nancy's daughter Annie Guthrie. Social media users have alleged that Evans resembles a person seen wearing a sky mask and backpacking doorbell footage released by authorities. Evans has denied any involvement and spoken out about the harassment he has faced. He said he feels as though his identity has been taken from him and questioned the motives behind the accusation, suggesting that they may be driven by clickbait or a desire for attention, while emphasizing that innocent people are being harmed. And that's it on the entertainment news. Evelyn Izibili reporting for Beetv News.
Lastly on sports news, Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen expressed disappointment with Galatasaray's performance despite their UEFA Champions League playoff victory over Juventus, which secured the team's place in the round of 16. Galatasaray advanced 7-5 in aggregate after a 5-2 first leg win at home and a hard-fought extra-time victory in Turin. Osimhen scored during the second leg, reducing the deficit to 3-1 and putting Galatasaray 6-5 ahead in aggregate, before Barry's Apel Yimax sealed qualification with a late goal. Despite the win, Osimhen criticized the team's display, noting that some teammates appeared timid and were intimidated by Juventus' play and the crowd. The 27-year-old Nigerian emphasized while he was happy to qualify, the team needs significant improvement for the next round against stronger opponents. He acknowledged Juventus' strong performance and said he tried to motivate his teammates but could not do it alone. And that's it in our news update. Thank you for joining us. To stay tuned with also more updates in our major news at 6. I am Liberator Man Johanna. Enjoy the rest of your day.